What is going on, everyone? My name is Jemima McKinney, but of course you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, into the Juice Slur. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Slur already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can find the Juice Slur on YouTube as well as podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. If you enjoy this particular episode right here, be sure to leave it a good rating and review if you're listening on a podcasting network. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave this episode a like and also comment your opinions and takes, where I was right, where I was wrong, etc., etc. Today, we're breaking down Super Bowl 58. I have some very solid topics to talk about and touch on before the Super Bowl kicks off officially in Las Vegas on Super Bowl Sunday. Before I do get started with the show, I just want to say also, follow me on social media. If you have not followed me on social media already, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, /X. So be sure to follow me on all those platforms, and also the account for the Juice Slur on these platforms. I put all the links to my social media accounts in the description of this episode and also on your screen if you're watching here on YouTube. So be sure to, take some time to jot those down and maybe screenshot, those handles if you need to. And also, check out MLBBro.com. You can find MLBBro.com, obviously, on MLBBro.com. You'll find the whole website, also some merchandise there. And in general, if you go to Instagram, TikTok, Twitter /X, and you type in MLBBro.com, you will find a lot of great content of people and very, very talented guys, covering the game of baseball from an African-American lens and perspective. Be sure to check us out. You can find some of my content on those platforms as well, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, for the upcoming season as well. Before I do officially kick off my Super Bowl prediction episode, I would say, I want to talk about Usher and I want to talk about Taylor Swift. I have a question for my audience and the audience in general. Whose music do you enjoy more? Taylor Swift or Usher? See, I asked this question because these two artists, these two musical geniuses, if you want to call them that, are two iconic legends that have given the music industry some of the biggest hits we've ever heard, okay? And they're going to be talked about during the week of Super Bowl 58, obviously because Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, and that just comes with the territory for dating a celebrity, and that celebrity is dating another celebrity. They're going to be in the headlines. And Taylor Swift already was a worldwide icon, I would say. I mean, she is super duper popular. Right now, today, you can make the argument Taylor Swift is one of the 5 to 10 most popular people in the entire world. Forget America, just the entire world. That is how popular I believe Taylor Swift is, at least in terms of just entertainers, music artists, people that entertain you and, get you captivated towards a TV screen or get you listening to music, But also, Taylor Swift, you got to keep in mind, she's not performing. Okay, she's the Chiefs' good luck charm. She's talked about a lot because she's Taylor Swift and because of the situation she's in with Travis Kelce, and they're in a great, fun relationship. But Usher is the actual performer at the halftime show for Super Bowl 58. So, because Taylor Swift and Usher are stealing headlines and are going to be talked about a lot during Super Bowl week, I just have the question for the audience in general. Which artist's music do you listen to more and do you enjoy between the two? For me personally, I can't really quite answer this because I have not done enough of a deep dive into Usher and Taylor Swift's discography to make a definitive decision. I think Usher is excellent. I think he's going to bring a ton of energy to that Super Bowl crowd in Las Vegas. He's going to light up that stage, and he's going to put on a great, great performance. Usher is one of the best natural performers I think that the music industry has ever seen. I mean, his dance moves are smooth and, cool, calm, and collected, but also electric. When Usher hits the dance floor, he's about to turn up and, get down to business. You know what I'm saying? And Usher, his sound, his unique, songwriting, and just his overall genre of music, what he brings to the table, it's unique. And it's a very, very fun, style of music to listen to. Meanwhile, you got Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift, she's been kind of labeled as just kind of like a country music singer, and I understand why, but Taylor has done a great job of incorporating different genres into her music, with the basis of country kind of being the main type of genre she's kind of aiming for, whether it be folk country or pop country. I think Taylor is just really, really talented, and I've taken the time to kind of go through Taylor Swift's discography over the past, year and a half, because Taylor Swift, she's become ultra, ultra popular as time has gone on. And I wanted to see what the hype is about. Now, I have not listened to every single Taylor Swift album. I have not done a deep dive into her discography, but she has got some great songs that are just flat out bangers. And I enjoy her music as a casual fan for the most part. I understand the hype, and I'm actually looking to go to a Taylor Swift concert this year, hopefully either in New Orleans, Louisiana, or in Miami, Florida. She's performing in both cities. She's performing also in Indianapolis here in 2024, and I think that'd be a great opportunity for me to go. But I think if I'm going to see Taylor Swift, I would rather see her in Miami or in New Orleans, right? I mean, no offense to Indianapolis. I think it's a great city with great people, but I don't think I would get the experience that I would get, on kind of a vacation type vibe if I went to Indianapolis as opposed to New Orleans or Miami, Florida, just because Indianapolis, Indiana is about a 3.5 hour drive from where I currently live right now. So I don't think the experience would be as great, but I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit right here. I think Usher is an icon in terms of his dance moves and, just, his overall impact in the music industry on so many people, and Taylor Swift, she's become a global icon, like I've mentioned. And these are two just legendary artists. They're going to be talked about a lot during Super Bowl week. So I'm curious for the audience, whose music do you like a little bit more than the other? Or are you not a fan of either Taylor Swift or Usher? I just want to know, comment it in the comment section, hit me up on social media. I would like to know who the people listen to the most between Taylor Swift and Usher. I think my answers are going to be kind of diverse because I went to, but by the way, I did this poll on Twitter where I asked, Usher or Taylor Swift, whose music do you listen to more? I was actually surprised that Usher kind of won by a landslide, but, I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. Would love to hear what you guys have to say, and, just comment your opinions. Usher versus Taylor Swift, whose music do you enjoy the most between those two great legendary artists? All right, enough talking about Taylor Swift and Usher. They're entertainers, and they're going to be on the screen a lot for Super Bowl 58, but the main focus is the actual game itself. Super Bowl 58, Sunday, February 11th, 2024, Las Vegas, Nevada, Kansas City Chiefs versus San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers right now are a 1.5 point favorite heading into the Super Bowl. And honestly, I would flip that because I think the Chiefs should honestly be favored by about a 1.5 to 2 point spread, just because I think that they're kind of the veteran team that's been there and done that. You have Mahomes, you have Travis Kelce, you have Chris Jones on the defensive side of the football, you have Andy Reid as your head coach. And last year, the Kansas City Chiefs kind of overachieved a little bit just because they were a young team relying on a lot of, young guys, especially on defense. And it shocked some people that they won the Super Bowl because people felt they were peaking about a year or two early. Meanwhile, this season, people wrote the Chiefs off once again, and boom, what do you know? They're back in the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you have the 49ers. They've had a really, really talented roster for a lot of different years over the past 5 seasons, but they haven't quite been able to win the big one. They're trying to get to where the Kansas City Chiefs are right now because they have the talent, they have the coaching staff, they have the front office. Honestly, if you look at things, the difference between the 49ers and the Chiefs is that the Kansas City Chiefs philosophy is pretty much the way the 49ers have run their team, except the Chiefs have kind of one-upped the 49ers. See, the Kansas City Chiefs had a good quarterback in Alex Smith, but they wanted to become great. So they traded up for Patrick Mahomes. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they were kind of the same situation the Chiefs were in a couple of years ago, where, you had Jimmy Garoppolo. He got you to a Super Bowl, but there was a ceiling with Jimmy Garoppolo. So you felt, okay, we need to trade up and make a splash for a quarterback. Well, the 49ers felt that big splash was Trey Lance. And unfortunately, Trey Lance was just really not ready to be an NFL starting quarterback and ultimately was not able to develop at the speed he needed to in order to get the 49ers to a Super Bowl. But the good news for the 49ers is that Kyle Shanahan found Brock Purdy out of Iowa State, and Brock Purdy was the last pick of his draft class, and Shanahan loves the guy. And Brock Purdy has taken this 49ers team, taken the reins of the franchise, and just ran with it. He's been everything the 49ers could have asked for and more. But when you look at Kansas City and San Francisco, honestly, they're two great barbecue spots on the block, but it just seems like the Chiefs, as of right now, they do the barbecue just a little bit better than the 49ers because they're kind of just better to a degree. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, that's all-time stuff. Hall of Fame level stuff. No doubt about it. Top 5 all-time stuff. Meanwhile, the combination of Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan, a lot of potential, but we haven't really seen that potential kind of pan out yet because Purdy's an unknown. He's not quite as talented. Actually, not even quite. He's not even close to as talented as Patrick Mahomes. And as good as Kyle Shanahan is, I'm taking Andy Reid over him all day, every day. Now, heading into this game, it seems like everyone is already starting to kind of crown the Kansas City Chiefs. And to me, I take issue with that. I understand that the Chiefs are currently a dynasty, and they have a chance to go from good dynasty to great dynasty by winning this Super Bowl. I get it. If they win 3 Super Bowls during a 4-year stretch, they're going to shut up a lot of haters, and they will forever go down in NFL history, not only just as a good dynasty, but a great dynasty, alongside the 1990s Cowboys, the 2000s Patriots, even maybe extended beyond that because Brady and Belichick were winning Super Bowls even after the 2000s. It'd be awesome. But everyone seems to be, at least, I would say at least 75% of the media is just fawning over Patrick Mahomes and acting as if Patrick Mahomes has already won the Super Bowl. They're acting like Patrick Mahomes already won Super Bowl 58. Some people are already calling Patrick Mahomes the greatest quarterback of all time, and I'm not there yet. Let's see Mahomes actually win a 3rd Super Bowl before we start making these claims. Now, here's the thing. I fully believe the San Francisco 49ers will beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. Let me repeat myself. The San Francisco 49ers will beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. Now, I believe Kansas City has a chance to kind of punch first in this matchup because they're kind of the veteran team. They've been there and done that multiple times. They've already won multiple championships with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes being the head coach and quarterback combination. And I've said it multiple times, head coach and quarterback. Those are the two things you got to nail in the National Football League. And the Chiefs, they're the cream of the crop. They're the standard. So they're probably going to lay the early punches and probably get out to a lead versus the 49ers. But I truly believe that once Brock Purdy settles in, and I will say, I think the 49ers roster is talented enough to where they can allow Brock Purdy to settle in. Where if they get off to a slow start, I think San Francisco is just such a really, really talented team that they have the luxury of going through stretches during a game where they maybe don't play their best football, but as long as they get those big explosive plays, as long as Kyle Shanahan can get into a play calling rhythm and Brock Purdy settles in, they can win games. Now, unfortunately, this is the ultimate challenge for the 49ers. You're going against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, a top 5 head coach and quarterback combination of all time. Maybe, even just maybe, if they continue to win in the postseason, they can prove to be the best head coach and quarterback combination of all time. It's at least somewhat on the table. You have to at least entertain it if they continue to win. But here's the thing. I think the 49ers in this Super Bowl 58 matchup are going to play their best football when it matters most. And in this postseason, up to this point, heading into the Super Bowl, we have not seen the best football from the San Francisco 49ers. It seems like they just haven't quite put it all together. But I think in the end, when it matters the most, they have such a talented roster. Kyle Shanahan is such a great play caller. And Brock Purdy has been magical in the clutch heading into this Super Bowl. I think the 49ers can pull this off. Now, in order for the 49ers to win, they're going to have to do a couple things. They're going to have to capitalize on the Chiefs' potential mistakes. They can't make mistakes themselves. Got to limit the turnovers, got to limit the penalties, and they need to be able to run the ball and ideally force the Kansas City Chiefs to be one-dimensional. Now, Andy Reid is the type of play caller where he is going to continue to run the football even if the run game is not the best or not quite working on schedule, because Andy Reid is always going to keep the defense honest. And as long as he is in a manageable situation, he trusts Patrick Mahomes, even in 3rd and long situations, to convert and get the job done as well as he should. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback and the best player in the National Football League as we speak today here in 2024. But here's the thing. I think the 49ers, as long as they run the football with Christian McCaffrey, I think they can take some pressure off of Brock Purdy and also maybe keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, because if you play the ball control game and are efficient in the red zone and run the football and allow Brock Purdy to attack, down the field off of play action, I think the 49ers can really find some success. And here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes, heading into this game, he is scorching hot. He is playing some of the best quarterback I've ever seen in terms of not making mistakes, not making the big boneheaded mistake that can cause the floodgates of a game to get out of hand for Kansas City. People can talk about, the Chiefs offense has made a significant turnaround. I would challenge that statement. I think what the Chiefs are doing right now is the Chiefs have eliminated the drop passes, and they have not been turning the football over on offense during the postseason. I think in this particular game, the 49ers defense can at least make things a little bit uncomfortable for Patrick Mahomes, and I think they can force him into a mistake or two. And the 49ers defense, led by Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, a guy like Chase Young with something to prove, I think they can capitalize off of some of these potential mistakes where Mahomes can put the ball in harm's way. And Kyle Shanahan has been in these situations before. He has in the past where he's gotten to a Super Bowl as a coordinator and unfortunately blew a huge lead, 28-3. We all know about the memes, how the Falcons, lost that Super Bowl and the Patriots went on to win it. We also know about the fact that Kyle Shanahan had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter versus Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs several years ago in a Super Bowl. The difference is he had Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback. And I'm not saying Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback, but I think Brock Purdy is a lot better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think that he has a lot more stuff to him as far as just being a stone cold killer where he needs to be. Kyle Shanahan trusts Brock Purdy. He's going to allow Brock Purdy to be the guy that Kyle Shanahan expects him to be in this game. And as I mentioned, the 49ers have yet to put together their most complete game during this postseason. And even if the San Francisco 49ers fall behind in this matchup, I think they have the right personnel and they have the right amount of good players to be able to make a comeback. So I think this is going to be an all-time classic Super Bowl 58 matchup. I really do firmly believe that. I think the Chiefs have every right to believe that they can win this game, but I'm going to roll with the San Francisco 49ers. I think Brock Purdy will play well when it matters most. I think Christian McCaffrey will be involved very early and very often, and also involved late in this matchup. And ultimately, I think Kyle Shanahan is going to steal the show. He's going to dial up his best play calls in the biggest spots. And I think he finally has a quarterback that he trusts and a quarterback that's pretty talented in Brock Purdy to where Purdy can execute. And I think the 49ers will come out on top in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas because it just seems like everyone seems to be crowning the Chiefs just a little bit too early. I think the 49ers will take that to heart. I think they're ultimately probably the better team on paper. And I just think the San Francisco 49ers time is now. They're tired of the Chiefs being in the position that they believe they should be in because the 49ers have been so close the last, 5 seasons or so, and they haven't won a Super Bowl in a long time since Steve Young was their quarterback. I think San Francisco was due this year, and I think they finally get over the hump and win Super Bowl 58. I cannot wait to watch it. Let me know what you guys think and who you believe is going to win Super Bowl 58. Love to hear you guys' feedback overall. It's no secret that there is major pressure on Kyle Shanahan to win Super Bowl 58. Everyone seems to be throwing Kyle Shanahan into the elite category, and I understand why, because Kyle Shanahan is wildly a talented head coach. But Andy Reid has won multiple Super Bowls. Sean McVay, who a lot of people consider to be elite and rightfully so, he's got a Super Bowl trophy to his name. Even the likes of Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin have won a Super Bowl at some point in their career. Even Doug Peterson found a way to win a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you have Kyle Shanahan, who everyone talks about as being this great progressive play caller. He can do no wrong. Kyle Shanahan has yet to win the big one. He's yet to win the Super Bowl. It's almost like there's kind of a James Harden effect with Kyle Shanahan, where he's great in the regular season, even has some great moments in the playoffs, but there's been some bad flameouts for Kyle Shanahan during his time being the 49ers head coach in these big spots and in these big time playoff games. Now, you can point to the fact that he had Jimmy Garoppolo as his quarterback. I understand that. And Garoppolo, to me, he never quite matched Shanahan's brilliance. It was an unbalanced situation. But now you have Brock Purdy as your quarterback. And I'm not saying Brock Purdy is the greatest quarterback in the world. He's far from that. But I think Brock Purdy is more than capable. And Brock Purdy has proven up to this point that he can keep up with Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy has a high football IQ. He's very talented and very much willing to learn and be coachable. That's very key. And it seems like Brock Purdy is in the process of really just truly mastering the Kyle Shanahan system. And Kyle Shanahan, we've seen him just kind of let Brock Purdy loose at times. And he's had no choice because the 49ers dealt with an injury to Deebo Samuel in that Green Bay Packers playoff game. The 49ers fell down 24-7 at home versus the Detroit Lions, and Brock Purdy was asked to make high-level throws, and he made the high-level throws. When it comes to Kyle Shanahan, as I mentioned, the only thing you can say about Kyle Shanahan up to this point is he doesn't have a Super Bowl trophy to his name. And you wonder why a guy like Kyle Shanahan, who's been a successful grad assistant, a successful offensive coordinator, and up to this point, a very successful NFL head coach, why has he not gotten a Super Bowl trophy yet? Up to this point, there's no more excuses. Because here's the thing. You're in an urgent state, Kyle Shanahan. The Kansas City Chiefs, yes, they would love to continue their dynasty run, but Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are already made men. They're cemented in NFL history forever. They've won multiple championships together already. Shanahan, you got to get to one Super Bowl win before we start talking about, elevating you to that type of status. So I think Kyle Shanahan, man, you got a veteran roster. You finally found your quarterback. You've gotten back to a Super Bowl, but you only get so many bites at the apple. So there's major pressure on Kyle Shanahan, because if we look back and we say Kyle Shanahan never won a Super Bowl, that would be kind of a mind-blowing statement, considering how talented of a play caller he is and how much respect Kyle Shanahan has garnered, not only from players, but coaches, executives, NFL analysts. Everyone seems to really respect Kyle Shanahan and what he brings to the table. So I'm, in a way, kind of rooting for Kyle Shanahan, just because I've already seen Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes win multiple Super Bowls. And I think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are awesome. I have nothing against them. And it'd be great to see them potentially win another Super Bowl again. But I root for great storylines. And Kyle Shanahan handpicking Brock Purdy as the last pick of the draft and potentially having Brock Purdy be that Super Bowl winning quarterback for him, that's a chef's kiss type storyline. It's something that we will talk about forever regarding NFL history if Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers are to cash in and win Super Bowl 58. I'm not saying Shanahan, if he loses this Super Bowl, never will get another great opportunity to win a Super Bowl, but all I'm saying is you never know when your last opportunity to win the big game is going to occur. So if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I would capitalize on this Super Bowl opportunity. Super Bowl 58 is there for the taking. I think Kyle Shanahan can get it done if he dials in and does his thing. I believe he can. So I want to touch on Andy Reid a little bit right here, because very similar to Patrick Mahomes, a lot of people are starting to have different conversations when it comes to Andy Reid. And rightfully so, because the success of Patrick Mahomes is not an accident, because we know Mahomes is talented, but also, who's his head coach? Oh yeah, it's Andy Reid. Andy Reid is excellent. He's awesome. And if Andy Reid were to win a third Super Bowl trophy, he's going to continue to climb up that head coach hierarchy as far as all-time special head coaches cemented in NFL history. But I think people are going just a little bit too far when it comes to Andy Reid. I don't think Andy Reid will ever reach the status of greatest NFL head coach of all time. I don't see it. And here's the thing. Let's just agree for now that Bill Belichick is kind of the standard, because he does have the 6 Super Bowl wins. He's coached for God knows how many years. And yeah, I mean, are you going to throw in Bill Walsh as the greatest head coach of all time? Vince Lombardi? I mean, really talented guys and guys that deserve to be in the GOAT conversation. But to me, Belichick is the top guy. Let's say Andy Reid were to double Bill Belichick in Super Bowl wins. So if he does that, he'd have 4 Super Bowl trophies to his name, Andy Reid. He would still be a full Hall of Fame head coaching gap behind Bill Belichick in terms of success, because he would still be 2 Super Bowl rings behind Bill Belichick. And I understand rings are not the only thing we should be counting here, but they truly do matter. They're the ultimate thing that really, really matters when evaluating who's the greatest of all time. You got to kind of count the rings just a little bit. I understand they're not everything, but they're one of the biggest factors, if not the biggest factor. And Andy Reid, he'd be 2 rings behind Belichick. That's an entire Hall of Fame coaching career gap. If an NFL head coach wins 2 Super Bowl rings, they're going to probably make the NFL Hall of Fame unless there's a cheating scandal or something crazy, involved. That's the gap between Andy Reid and Bill Belichick if Andy Reid doubles his Super Bowl victories. And not to mention, Belichick already beat Andy Reid in a Super Bowl one time. And Andy Reid has never beaten Bill Belichick in the playoffs. Andy Reid is 0-3 versus Belichick in the playoffs. And the other thing about Andy Reid is I just don't think he has enough time. If Andy Reid were sitting on 2 Super Bowl rings and he'd be, I don't know, anywhere from 58 to 60 years old, then we might be talking. The only problem is Andy Reid is 65 years old. And I highly doubt he's going to coach another 10 years. I just don't think Andy Reid has it in his heart to coach another 10 years. I understand it's probably going to be easy coaching Patrick Mahomes compared to some of these other coaches and their situations. But, I don't think Andy Reid strikes me as a guy that wants to coach for another 10 years. And for those people that are not going to Andy Reid for potential greatest head coach of all time, I hear you. He had success with McNabb. Got McNabb to a Super Bowl, even though I think Donovan McNabb himself as a talent is underrated. But again, Andy Reid did that. He had success with Michael Vick, had success with Alex Smith, and now he's found this ultra-talented quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, and he's one of the guys that helped develop Patrick Mahomes, and now he's winning Super Bowls. And he's back in the Super Bowl once again and might win another one, or 2 or 3. We'll see. But the bottom line is, when it comes to Belichick and Andy Reid, neither of them were winning titles before they got all-time great quarterbacks. So even if you want to say, oh, Belichick, he's not that great of a head coach without Tom Brady, that's somewhat of a fair argument. But the bottom line is Andy Reid did not win championships until he got his hands on Patrick Mahomes, just like Bill Belichick didn't win championships until he got his hands on Tom Brady. And some people are arguing that Patrick Mahomes, just from a talent perspective, is better than Tom Brady. Now, we know about Brady's greatness and Brady's resume, but just in terms of talent, what we have to work with in terms of play calling and how Patrick Mahomes can elevate his teammates and elevate a situation, some people think that he clears Brady in that category because some people think that Brady, there's a little bit of a game manager, syndrome to his game. And I don't think those people are necessarily wrong, but all I'm saying is, if we're going to say that Belichick only won Super Bowls because of Tom Brady, we can say the same exact thing for Andy Reid because it's a literal fact, people. We've seen it. You can look it up if you haven't seen it, but it's the honest truth. Now, I will say this right now. If Andy Reid can get the 5 Super Bowl championships won, I think we will legitimately have to have a conversation about him being the greatest NFL head coach of all time, because I don't think he needs to necessarily match Bill in rings, but he needs to come pretty darn close or at least match him, for me at least. And I think for most NFL fans to say, yeah, Andy Reid's potentially the greatest head coach of all time in NFL history. So I don't think Andy Reid is going to get the 5 Super Bowl championships won, but it's at least somewhat on the table. So I'm willing to revisit this conversation when Andy Reid stacks up more championships. And maybe he's going to do so. I think that he has a great chance to do so, but we have to actually see it happen. But ultimately, for my money, if I were to guess, even if he comes close to Belichick's 6 rings, I just don't think Andy Reid is ever going to reach the status of greatest head coach of all time in NFL history. But that's how I feel. How do you feel? Let me know in the comment section. Love to know what you guys have to say. Last but not least, I want to touch on Chase Young. Chase Young to me was the best college prospect I've ever evaluated. You know, in all my years of looking at players and talking about sports and scouting, Chase Young to me was the most talented prospect I've ever come across. I mean, the guy is 6'5", about 270. He's a guy that just seems like he's built out of a lab. I mean, rare combination of size, power, speed, and strength. I mean, this guy was a dominant force at Ohio State. And to me, Chase Young equaled potential NFL game changing record on the defensive side of the football. And I've even said in the past, I felt that Chase Young, if he stayed healthy and actually honed into his skill set, he could challenge Lawrence Taylor for the greatest defensive player ever. Now, I may have been way over my skis, and it seems like I've been way over my skis, but that's how talented I believe Chase Young is and was. And I even said in the past, Chase Young probably going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. And for Chase Young, his NFL journey has been interesting because this is a guy that won Defensive Rookie of the Year, immediately burst onto the scene, and you just saw the it factor right away. But got into a sophomore slump, ultimately tears his ACL later down the road in his NFL career, comes back, looks pretty good. And I felt that Chase Young was starting to really surprise some people this year based on the way he was getting after the quarterback. But ultimately, Washington, the team that drafted Chase Young, they traded him away. And I feel like it was a dumb decision because I feel like talented players like Chase Young just don't grow on trees. And Washington traded him away for a third-round pick. And to me, that was disrespectful to Chase Young because I look at Chase Young as a talent and I'm like, man, a third-round pick? This is an ultimate steal for the 49ers. And you mean to tell me the 49ers defense is landing Chase Young? He's going to be right beside Nick Bosa? This is a match made in heaven. But at this point, Chase Young's time with the 49ers has been a tad disappointing. And now reports are coming out that Chase Young might be getting benched in the Super Bowl. In Super Bowl 58, might be getting benched because of lack of effort. There's this crazy Twitter video that's been circling around social media where Chase Young, just gives very, very low effort on this Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown run where he's right there to potentially make a tackle and he just makes a very low effort attempt. And, it went kind of viral and that's what kind of sparked the rumors of, oh man, Chase Young might be getting benched in the Super Bowl. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No, because I think the 49ers recognize, even though Chase Young's motor and his overall focus at times can be questioned, he's a darn good football player, and they need Chase Young to be on his A game if they want to win a Super Bowl. But when you look at Chase Young, I mean, he's this really, really talented pass rusher, but you hear little stories about he lacks attention to detail, kind of freelances, beyond what the coaches are trying to tell him. And in terms of his pass rushing bag, I'm going to give an NBA reference. Everyone talks about Kyrie Irving's bag and Kevin Durant's bag and Kobe Bryant's bag because it seems like they have every single tool in the toolbox and they're really, really skilled. Well, Chase Young, in terms of his pass rushing bag, it's very basic up to this point. And I think it needs to be refined and retooled. And just Chase Young needs to dig a little bit deeper into his bag of pass rush moves and be better. Because it seems like Chase Young is, at this point, easy to game plan against. And there's been some instances where he's just getting pushed around a little bit. I'm like, Chase Young, what are you doing? You're a former top 2 overall pick of your draft class. You're supposed to be this really talented guy. But the good news for Chase Young is Super Bowl 58 is the type of spotlight where Chase Young can forever make himself a household name. Chase Young, with all the people watching across the world in Super Bowl 58 versus Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, the best of the best, he has a chance to earn himself a $1 million check long-term potentially if he can put together a great, great Super Bowl. Because up to this point, Chase Young has been good for the 49ers, but hasn't really knocked anyone's socks off, And I think Chase Young, he's a guy that's potentially chasing a new contract. and ideally in San Francisco. Because if Chase Young doesn't get a contract in San Francisco, where's he going to go? He's probably going to get employment because he's a talented guy, and he's not a bad football player by any means. But if you're Chase Young, you're living in the Bay. It's San Francisco. You're with your former Ohio State teammate, Nick Bosa. This is a Super Bowl caliber culture. Why leave San Francisco? And up to this point, Chase Young has not had a signature game yet in his career outside of a couple games in his rookie season. What's the signature Chase Young game where we look at it and say, yeah, Chase Young has officially arrived and he's actually entered the prime of his career? And as I mentioned, the 49ers need Chase Young to step up in a big way if they're going to knock off Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Chase Young, to me, will be dependent upon. So Chase Young, my message to you is play angry, play free. Go out there and have fun, man. And I'm rooting for you because I think you're really, really talented, and I think you have a chance to have a great Super Bowl performance. And Chase Young is one guy to keep your eye on in Super Bowl 58 for the 49ers. Will Chase Young clock in a great performance and really cement himself, in the NFL as a dominant, ultimate pass rusher? We'll see. Time will tell because I think Chase Young has the talent, but he's got to go out there and actually produce to validate his overall talent and ability, through a great performance, potentially in the Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens. Well, folks, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Jamal McKinney. Have a God bless day. Comment who you believe is going to win the Super Bowl. And if you've made it to this point of the show, comment the word orange. I want to see who's out there listening to the very end of these shows. So whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you can comment in the comment section orange, or just tag me in social media, or leave it in the comment section on YouTube. Love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a God bless day. Stay safe. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends and family if you enjoy. And I'm Ghost.